Welcome to the Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast. I am your host, Alice Round. I am pumped to have you here. We are going to really strip back all of the bullshit surrounding nutrition, training, fad diets, everything in the industry so that we can give you education to get the best possible results. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's go through all this bullshit. So I just got home from the Arnold Classic Australia, so thank you for tuning in, and I hope you listened to the last episode about the Arnold Classic. If you wanted a little bit of a wrap up, then you can pop over and watch that episode. I have lost my voice a slight bit, but other than that, things are all good. So I'm going to talk today about traveling and nutrition and training, which is a big topic that a lot of people always ask questions about, and I think it's something that a lot of my clients struggle with and a lot of people struggle with when they email me. They say, oh my God, I'm going on holidays and I'm worried I'm going to gain weight, or I'm worried this is going to happen and I've got this goal or this contest prep, or I'm doing a challenge and I don't want to lose sight of all of that. Now, there's two things to factor in here. I always ask the person when they ask these questions, the first thing, what is your end goal? And how important is that goal to you at the moment? Now, if that goal is really high on your priority list and say you're dealing with health concerns, you're trying to improve your health and there's a lot of things going on that you're really trying to focus on, then you're probably going to need to be a little bit more strict when you go away on holidays or when you go away for work, all of those sort of things when you're traveling. Now, if your goals are a little bit more flexible and there's no set deadline or anything like that, then you can be a little bit more relaxed and not put that pressure on yourself. Either way, I feel like it's important to not put pressure on yourself when you're traveling, because I can guarantee you that things won't go to plan. There will be things along the way that happen that are totally out of your control, and if you let that stress and pressure overwhelm you, then that will take its toll. So what I mean by that is, for example, when we went to the Arnolds, we had an absolute shit show, pardon my French, on the way over, and go and watch my YouTube video on that. But basically we missed our flight in the morning and I'd brought breakfast with me on the plane, but I hadn't planned really a lot of other meals because I was thinking we're going to be there at a certain time and then we'll go get some meal prep, and I'd had actual food like packed in my luggage but not in my carry-on because I was thinking it was only a quick 3.5 hour flight. So anyway, we missed our flight, so then we had only packed the one meal. We're at the airport, and then on the aeroplane I was hungry and I was like, do I eat the plane food, don't I? So all of these things kind of are out of your control, and then making that decision of, is it better to just wait or is it better to have something? And there's so many factors that come up with you traveling, and these things are going to arise, and like I said, the key thing is to not put the pressure on yourself to be perfect, because I can guarantee you won't be able to be absolutely perfect in terms of nutrient timing or meals or all of that. So I tend to take the pressure off myself, and let's say, for example, I am being more strict, which I was trying to be when I went over to the Arnold Classic, because I was going for work. I wasn't going for a holiday. Generally, if I'm going on for a holiday, I'll be a lot more relaxed, and I won't tend to plan a holiday when I'm trying to diet or when I'm doing something like that. I'll tend to go in in a reverse dieting period or in a period where I'm in a caloric surplus. I don't think it's a good idea to book a holiday when you're actually dieting, or being a bit more aggressive with a cut. So for me, for example, I'm getting ready for my next show and I'm a fair way out at the moment. So I'm around I think it's pretty much 30-week mark at the moment, which is pretty far out, but I'm doing a long prep because I've got a lot of body fat to lose and I want to do a slow, steady prep, try a little bit of a different method. Now, my calories are not low by any means. They're still around, I think, just dipped under the 2,000 cal mark or around that mark there. I have started doing a little bit of cardio, and I am, tracking my macros more specifically and trying to be a bit more spot on. And I have one free meal a week at the moment. So anyway, heading into the Arnolds, I wanted to keep up with a bit of a regime. So what are the kind of key things that I did to do so? Now, I will preface this by saying that things, of course, did not go perfectly. But some of my top tips. So I always take things with me traveling, and I mean in my carry-on and then also in my luggage. Now, I probably should have packed a little bit more stuff in my carry-on and been ready for something like this to happen. But that was one of the little mistakes I made. But in my actual luggage, I always pack a source of carbs, protein, and fats. I always find that protein is the hardest thing to hit when you're traveling. So really, really essential to throw in some easy sources of protein. Now, if you're only going for a few days, I would tend to throw in some like actual frozen meat that I've pre-cooked, a couple of meals, especially if it's for work. If I'm going away for work, I'll always cook off a few meals so that I don't have to really think about it as much when I get there. Especially if I know I'm going to be busy. So I'll always cook off a few serves of extra protein and then protein powder, of course, because if the meals go off or something like that in the flight, then at least you've got that protein powder as a backup to get to some shops or something like that. A couple of tins of tuna are handy as well. I know people freak out about mercury in tuna, but if you're having it on occasion, there is no issue with that in my personal opinion. So I'll chuck in a few tins of tuna or sardines or something like that, some form of easy source of protein. I'm not a fan of that chicken in a can. I don't trust it, so I'll tend to stick to those. Then in terms of carbs, you want things that are obviously non-perishable, so you don't really want to chuck in like fruit and things like that, especially into your luggage. So I will put in things like oats, generally like a bag of oats. I know they're super cheap, so even if I don't use them all, and I need to throw them out, it doesn't matter too much. If you're buying, a $1 or $2 bag of oats, it's super handy. So I'll generally chuck in protein powder, oats, my staples. Sometimes I'll put in a bag of rice cakes if I've got room. Generally they'll be a good one for the aeroplane because they're easy to eat. Natural popcorn is another really handy one from the aeroplane. And then I'll chuck in a thing of fat. So generally that will be nuts. Some places you can't take nuts. So what you can do there is throw in a tub of nut butter, almond butter, or a small thing of peanut butter is a really, really good idea. And then you're pretty much covered for protein, carbs, and fats. Now, in terms of other things, I will generally prep a couple of protein sources, like I said, and maybe even a couple of full meals. And then when I get to my location, as soon as I get there, I'll generally hunt down where I can get water and food and where the gym is, if that hasn't already been pre-organized. So as soon as you get somewhere, kind of stake out your surroundings, figure out where everything is. And what I would tend to do is the first thing first is go and buy some basics. So go and buy some vegetables. That's a really good one. Some salad ingredients, and then probably a form of protein, and then a carb that's easy to cook. So if you don't have like an oven or anything like that, then you can get the packet microwavable rices. If you don't have a microwave, you can always pour boiling water on them and strain them out. I've eaten them raw before and they've been fine. Otherwise, obviously, fruit is going to be a really good one when you're traveling as well. I think bananas and apples are great if you can tolerate them because they're super, super convenient. So all of these sort of things are really, really handy when you're traveling. I always tend to take macro snacks with me, especially the protein muesli, because I find that that's a really good source of protein, carbs, and fat all in one. And obviously non-perishable, so it's really handy in terms of travel and travels really well. The other big one that I will tend to take is I always take a few sachets of stevia and sometimes some cinnamon, and even sometimes sachets of salt or a thing of Himalayan rock salt, because sometimes they're like the basic staples that I like to have in my day that can get expensive to buy, and it's easier just to take a few sachets or something like that for the short term. And then obviously you can flavour up things with that if you're out having coffee, all of those sort of things. Now, if you know you're going somewhere that you're not going to have access to shops, I'll tend to also take like a thing of almond milk with me. And that will just, because I'm not a fan of drinking black coffee. So that's another big one you can take. In terms of supplements, I keep it pretty simple. I'll take my basics and I will Ziploc them all off into bags. It's much more convenient than taking tubs of things. That is no problem traveling. It's really, really convenient. Now, that being said, that is the bulk of it. But when it comes down to it, things won't go to plan. So, for example, we're at the Arnold's and we had, on the first day, my clients were on stage on the Friday, and we thought that they would be probably done by about midday, maybe 1 o'clock. Now, the girls didn't finish. I don't think we got back till 6 p.m. So I had eaten breakfast before I went. So I had some oats and protein and nuts and fruit. So that was all good. I'd even been for a walk that morning. That's always a really good way to start the day when you're traveling. And then we didn't bring... I brought one wheel with me to the expo. So I brought, I think it was like chicken and vegetables and some sweet potato and then we're there till 6 o'clock. So what do you do in that situation where you're stuck out somewhere? Now, there was heaps of protein bars and things like that around me. I try to avoid those sort of things when I can. They're full of a lot of artificial ingredients. So there was a stand that had protein coconut smoothies. So basically I just asked them for banana, some coconut water and protein powder. And then I think they put some shredded coconut as well to add a little bit more fats, because obviously that for me is a more natural choice of food than having something like a protein bar. It's more filling, it's convenient. And then that night we actually went out to dinner with the girls that I train. So I kind of calculated in my head, and this is what I do when I'm traveling, roughly what macros I've hit. Again, I'm not super specific or strict on it, but I am calculating it. So I kind of work out how many grams of protein I had in my breakfast, how many in my lunch in that smoothie, and then how much I need to hit for dinner. Now, I knew I was way behind on my carb intake and also fats. So at dinner, I ordered a steak. So I know that's a little bit higher fat than like chicken or something like that. And it was a 200-gram steak, so I knew that would get my protein up. And then with that, it came with a side of mashed potato, which was perfect, easy to figure out those macros. And then I asked for a side salad, and it came with some steamed vegetables. So whenever I'm out, I always ask for extra vegetables. I'll always ask for a side of steamed or a salad, because I'll find that if there's chips or something like that in front of me, I'll tend to pick at them if I'm not full, just off, say, like my meat or whatever it is. Now, there was a few sweet potato fries at the table, and of course I had a couple of those as well and tracked those, but I know that they're very high in fat. They're still deep fried. Even though they're sweet potato, they are still deep fried and just as bad for you as a normal French fry. So that's kind of a misconception about foods. Now, there was also dessert pizza that came out, and my girls had ordered it, and they were like, "Coach, have a piece." So I had probably about half a piece. I just had a little slither, and I knew that everything may not have been bang on at the end of the day. I actually didn't finish entering those macros into my Fitness Pal, but I knew in my head that I made some smart choices and that I was going to be pretty bang on to my macros. Now, that same sort of thing happened over a few days. One day we had sushi for dinner. One day we were out at lunch, and again, same sort of thing, had to make a smart decision. And I got back from Arnold's this morning. This was after flying. I was in leggings and a jumper, and in the afternoon, and I normally weigh myself in the morning, and I was only about 200 grams up on when I left. So I don't think I actually gained weight. I probably dropped weight, because when I get back on, normally I weigh in the morning, first thing, pretty much nude. I guarantee you I'll be actually less than when I left. Now, in terms of cardio and training, I trained in the week. I think we had very short sessions, so everything was rushed. It was like a quick 30-45 minute session. Normally I'll train for like an hour to an hour and a half. It was just get in, do what you can. Me and Sean weren't feeling fabulous when we were over there, so it was just a case of doing what we felt like we could, stretching and getting out. I didn't really do a lot of structured cardio. I did one HIIT session on the hotel treadmill, but everything else was just walking around. And we did have a car, so we weren't walking everywhere, but just to the expo and everything, we were walking. So the point I'm trying to get across is that in the course of one whole week, so 7 days away, doing less training, doing less cardio, probably eating more sodium-based foods, probably eating over on my calories, especially on carbs. I definitely think I went over a bit, and probably a little bit under on protein, a little bit over on fats, which tends to happen when you travel. To have dropped weight coming back is a super positive for me. I would have been happy if I was the same, or maybe went up a tiny bit, and didn't do any serious damage. Now, I know for me a few years ago, if I had have gone and done that, this would have been a real struggle. So there is the thing about, you've got to always look back at your goals and then look at where you're going with that. And if your goal is, like I said, to go on a holiday and enjoy yourself and chill out, then yeah, you want to be a little bit more relaxed. But I don't really see making smart choices as dieting. I see it as just a way of life. So for me personally, if I'm going to go and order, a restaurant item, I don't tend to be someone that will order a whole pizza to myself. I believe in moderation. I believe in trying things, but it might be a case of ordering that like we did at dinner, where we shared this dessert pizza amongst like 8 people. So everyone's having like a slice rather than you having this whole pizza and then having a more normal main. So it's all about making those smart choices. And of course, treating yourself at times, but I still don't feel like you should treat yourself with food, because food is not a reward. So you don't go on holidays just to eat food. I mean, sometimes you might go on a food tour, but if you have health and fitness goals, that is probably not what you're going to be doing on holidays. You're going to be wanting to go and chill out or sightsee or do certain things. So there is more to life than sitting on MyFitnessPal and being so pedantic when you're traveling. But if you have a goal and it's a work trip or something like that, there's definitely ways around it. And it comes down to, making decisions, spending a little bit of time. It's not going to be super easy. Being organized, and then also not making excuses. So still making really good decisions, still being mindful of what you're eating, and trying to be active is a big one as well. Even if it's 30-40 minute sessions, quick short sessions when you're busy, just getting in and getting things done. And again, I didn't really do my normal training program. It was just do what you can. I didn't take lifting shoes or belts or anything like that. So if you want to see a little bit more of the Arnold's footage, I have put up some videos on YouTube, as well as a little bit of an update on my announcement, which is that I'm going to be competing at the end of the year again. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments about traveling and nutrition, I would love to hear them. But it's definitely something that I've had to do a lot of over the last few years. I work a lot as an online coach, and I travel around Australia. I've traveled the world, and I'm getting pretty good at learning how to track macros while traveling and how to be mindful without being too obsessed. So it's a really big thing. Don't put that pressure on yourself to be perfect when you're traveling, but making sure that you're mindful of the decisions you're making and not just going completely YOLO when you are somewhere, and always remembering back to your goals. So what are your goals? Is your choices you're going to make getting you further away from your goal, or keeping you in line with your goal, or even pushing you closer to your goal? And that's how you want to see it when you're traveling, is, staying reasonably close within that goal, but not being super strict, and then not doing anything that's going to completely push you backwards, which is what we want to avoid. So I hope you enjoyed this quick little episode on traveling and nutrition and training. And like I said, be sure to go check out the full videos up on my YouTube channel. And I have actually put full supplement regime in there for when I'm traveling. So enjoy, guys, and I'll chat to you soon. Thank you for listening to another episode of Break Through the Bullshit. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes. Let me know, comment what you'd love to see more of, and be sure you've also subscribed on YouTube and iTunes for updates. And if you'd like more info, then you can also add the Team Round Support Facebook page, which is available to access for all of you, and you just simply need to search for it on Facebook.